Hello, everyone. I'm Alex, and you're about to hear a horror story told in my own words. Today's story is about a bus driver named Michael. So let's listen to this story from Michael's perspective. But first, I have a request. I hope you enjoy the story, and if you do, please show your support by subscribing to the channel. Also, if you'd like me to mention your name in a future video, please leave your name and city in the comments. Now, let's get started. My name is Michael, and I live in a small town near Sedona, Arizona, nestled amidst the towering red rock formations that dominate the landscape. I'm in my early 50s, but I still feel like a young driver at heart. The desert air, the vast open spaces, and the sheer beauty of the natural surroundings keep me feeling vibrant and alive. After years on the road, I can sense everything. Every turn, every subtle shift in the terrain, every change in the air, every hint of danger. It's a skill honed by countless miles and countless journeys through this rugged and unforgiving, yet breathtakingly beautiful part of the country. The desert has a way of sharpening your senses, of making you more attuned to the subtle cues of the natural world. You learn to read the wind, to anticipate the changes in the weather, to feel the vibrations of the earth beneath your wheels. It's a knowledge born of necessity, a survival instinct that becomes second nature after years of navigating these challenging landscapes. For the past 25 years, I've been driving buses, traversing the highways and back roads of Arizona and the surrounding states. I used to drive trucks, hauling goods across long distances, but I grew tired of the long, lonely night spent in roadside motels, the endless frustration of traffic jams in bustling cities, and the constant isolation from friends, family, and the simple comforts of home. The allure of the open road, which once captivated me, eventually faded, replaced by a yearning for connection and a more predictable routine. The long-haul trucking life, with its irregular hours and solitary existence, began to take its toll. I missed the simple things, a home-cooked meal, a friendly conversation, the laughter of loved ones. Now, I drive a tourist bus for a wealthy businessman, transporting eager travelers to their destinations. The bus is registered in his name, but I'm responsible for its upkeep, its smooth operation, and the safety of its passengers. In a way, it's become an extension of myself, and I love that bus more than words can say. My old but reliable white blue bird, with its comfortable seats and panoramic windows, has a small St. Christopher statue on the dashboard, a constant reminder of my responsibility to protect those in my care. Every morning, before I embark on a new journey, I light a small candle at the base of the statue and offer a silent prayer for a safe and uneventful trip. It's a ritual that brings me a sense of peace and reassurance, a connection to something larger than myself as I navigate the often unpredictable roads. The statue, a small, worn figure of the patron saint of travelers, has been with me through thick and thin, a silent witness to the countless miles I've traveled and the myriad of faces that have passed through my bus. It's a tangible link to a tradition of faith and protection, a small beacon of hope in the vastness of the open road. The story I'm about to tell you is about the most terrifying night of my life, an experience that shook me to my core and left an indelible mark on my soul. I'm not exaggerating when I say that, at the time, I truly didn't know if I would survive the night. The events that unfolded were so bizarre, so inexplicable, that they defied any logical explanation. It felt like destiny, or perhaps a malevolent, unseen force was toying with me, leading me down a path of increasing dread and uncertainty. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling, revealing a hidden world of darkness and chaos that I never knew existed. The line between the natural and the supernatural blurred, and I found myself confronted with something that challenged my understanding of the world and my place within it. Who were those people? Where did they come from, emerging from the shadows like figures in a nightmare? Were they merely lost souls, or something far more sinister? Were they beings of flesh and blood, or something else entirely? And what did they want? What was the purpose of their unsettling presence, their cryptic actions, and the palpable sense of menace that surrounded them? What secrets did they carry, and what dark desires drove them forward? What ancient rituals or forbidden knowledge did they possess? You'll find out, but the truth was revealed slowly, agonizingly slowly, one terrifying layer at a time, peeling back the veil of reality to reveal a darkness that I never knew existed, a darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the familiar world, waiting to be unleashed. It was a darkness that whispered of forgotten gods and ancient evils, a darkness that threatened to consume everything in its path. It started like any other day, with the promise of adventure and the allure of the open road. A tour group was scheduled to depart from Sedona, a town renowned for its stunning red rock formations, its vibrant art scene, and its mystical energy. The air in Sedona is always thick with a sense of ancient power, a feeling that you're standing on sacred ground. The energy of the place is palpable, a sense of something ancient and powerful that permeates the very stones beneath your feet. There's a reason why so many people are drawn to Sedona, why it's considered a spiritual vortex. It's a place where the veil between worlds seems thin, where the whispers of the past echo through the canyons and the wind carries secrets from forgotten ages. There were 22 travelers, a diverse group of individuals from all walks of life, eager to visit some of the ancient Native American sites and legendary ghost towns that the Arizona landscape. They were a mix of ages and backgrounds, united by a shared desire for exploration and discovery. Some were seasoned travelers, their faces etched with the wisdom of countless journeys, while others were embarking on their first adventure, their eyes wide with anticipation and a touch of trepidation. My boss, a man known for his meticulous planning and his demanding expectations, had given me specific instructions before the trip. Michael, these people are from back east, mostly city dwellers. They're used to a certain level of comfort and efficiency, so be professional. Maintain a tight schedule, stay on schedule, and accommodate their requests with a smile. They're paying good money for this experience, so make sure it's a memorable one. I smiled and nodded, assuring him that I understood the importance of providing exceptional service and ensuring the safety and comfort of the passengers. I knew that these travelers were placing their trust in me, and I was determined to live up to their expectations. I saw myself not just as a driver, but as a guardian, a protector, responsible for their well-being in this unfamiliar and sometimes unforgiving landscape. Around 7 a.m., as the morning sun began to paint the red rocks with hues of gold and crimson, the passengers began boarding the bus, their faces filled with anticipation and excitement. Some were chatting excitedly, comparing itineraries and sharing travel stories, while others were still half asleep, yawning and stretching as they found their seats, their eyes slowly adjusting to the bright morning light. The bus filled with the sounds of excited chatter, the rustling of backpacks, and the clicking of seatbelts, a symphony of anticipation that always filled me with a sense of purpose. Still others were gazing out the windows at the majestic red rocks, their eyes wide with wonder at the breathtaking scenery, their cameras clicking as they tried to capture the awe-inspiring vistas. The towering formations, sculpted by millennia of wind and rain, seemed to pulse with a silent energy, their colors shifting and changing with the movement of the sun. As usual, I was the last one to board, taking a moment to glance at the statue of St. Christopher, offering a silent prayer for a smooth and uneventful journey, before starting the engine and setting off through the winding streets of Sedona. The first stop on our itinerary was Montezuma Castle National Monument, a fascinating ancient cliff dwelling that offered a glimpse into the lives of the people who inhabited this land centuries ago. The plan was to spend the night near the historic town of Jerome, a former copper mining town perched precariously on the side of a mountain, before heading to the ruins of an old settlement, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered to be haunted by the spirits of its long-departed inhabitants. Several of the travelers were particularly interested in that part of the trip, drawn by the allure of the unknown and the thrill of the macabre. They said things like, "We want to explore the hidden corners of this place," and "We're looking for something different, something beyond the ordinary tourist experience. We want to feel the pulse of history, to connect with something beyond the mundane." I couldn't understand their fascination with so-called haunted places, their desire to seek out darkness and the remnants of tragedy. But it was my job to take them where they wanted to go, to be their guide into the heart of the Arizona desert, to navigate the physical and perhaps even the spiritual landscape that lay before us. I often wondered what drove people to seek out such places, what morbid curiosity or hidden longing drew them to the shadows. It was winter, and the desert landscape, while starkly beautiful, could also be unforgiving. The morning was crisp and clear, with a sky so blue it seemed to stretch on forever, an endless expanse of azure that met the horizon in a seamless embrace. The air was dry and thin, carrying the scent of juniper and sagebrush, a heady aroma that was both invigorating and strangely calming. But despite the beauty of the day, a cold wind was blowing, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and the distant cry of a hawk, a reminder of the wildness and isolation of this land. The wind howled through the canyons and across the open plains, a constant reminder of the raw power of nature. The passengers were bundled up in their winter clothes, donning thick coats, scarves, and gloves to ward off the chill, their breath misting in the cold air, and I wore a warm beanie pulled low over my ears as I gripped the steering wheel, feeling the vibrations of the powerful engine beneath me and humming a gospel tune to myself, finding solace and strength in the familiar melody. The engine hummed like a low, contented beast, a mechanical companion on this long journey. It was a sound that was both comforting and powerful, a reminder of the machine's strength and reliability. Around 2 p.m., as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert floor, we stopped at a roadside diner, a small, unassuming establishment that offered a welcome respite from the long hours on the road. The diner, with its weathered facade and neon sign flickering in the daylight, seemed like an oasis in the vast emptiness of the desert. It was a place where weary travelers could find sustenance and rest, a brief respite from the harsh realities of the road. The passengers disembarked, eager to stretch their legs and grab a bite to eat. They ordered steaming cups of coffee, hot chocolate, and an assortment of snacks, from freshly baked pastries to hearty sandwiches, the aroma of which filled the cozy interior of the diner. The air was filled with the sounds of conversation and laughter, the clinking of cutlery, and the hiss of the coffee machine. Some took pictures of the surrounding desert landscape, capturing the vastness and the raw beauty of the scenery, the stark contrast between the red rocks and the endless blue sky. I sat in a quiet corner of the diner, enjoying a late lunch of a simple but satisfying meal, observing the interactions of the passengers and the ebb and flow of life in this small desert outpost. It was a chance to connect with the human element of this journey, to witness the shared experience of travel and the diverse personalities that filled my bus. We were all just temporary inhabitants of this vast and ancient land, bound together by the road that stretched out before us. An older gentleman from the group, a man with a kind face and a twinkle in his eye, approached me and said, "Michael, I hear we're going through a haunted place later on this trip. Is that right?" I nodded and replied, "That's the plan. That's what I've been told." He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that spoke of years of experience and a healthy dose of skepticism, and said, "I'm not scared. I've seen a lot in my time, and I don't believe in ghosts, but I'm always up for a good story." I smiled and replied lightly, "That's good to hear." But even the best drivers, the most seasoned veterans of the road, keep their fear tucked away somewhere, just in case. It's a healthy respect for the unknown that keeps us safe, that reminds us that there are forces out there that we don't fully understand. Around 4 p.m., as the afternoon shadows began to lengthen and the sun dipped lower in the western sky, we left the familiar comfort of I-17 and headed west, venturing onto a less traveled road that snaked its way deeper into the heart of the desert. The landscape began to change, becoming increasingly desolate and remote. The rolling hills and towering red rocks, which had dominated the scenery for most of the day, gave way to vast stretches of flat, open desert, dotted with sparse vegetation and the occasional lonely Joshua tree. We were surrounded by seemingly endless expanses of sand and rock, a landscape that was both awe-inspiring and slightly unsettling in its emptiness. The silence was profound, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional cry of a distant bird. The air grew still and heavy, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. As we journeyed further into this desolate terrain, the cell phone network disappeared, leaving us cut off from the outside world and any sense of connection to civilization. The radio, which had been playing a mix of classic rock and country tunes, went silent, replaced by the eerie sound of the wind whistling through the aging windows of the bus, a sound that seemed to carry whispers of forgotten stories and long-lost secrets. The wind, a constant presence in the desert, seemed to grow stronger as we ventured further into the unknown, its mournful howl adding to the growing sense of unease. It was as if the wind itself was trying to warn us, to turn us back from the path we were taking. A young man sitting near the front of the bus, his face etched with a mixture of boredom and impatience, asked, "Driver, can you speed up a little? This road seems endless, and I'm starting to feel a little uneasy. It's like we're driving into the middle of nowhere." I smiled reassuringly, but my eyes scanned the road ahead, ever vigilant for any signs of danger or unexpected obstacles. The desert can be a beautiful but treacherous place, and I knew that it was crucial to remain focused and alert. I replied, "I understand your impatience, but these Arizona roads, especially the ones less traveled, don't like speed. They demand respect and caution. Patience is key on these roads. Our safety and the safety of everyone on this bus is more important than arriving a few minutes earlier. Besides," I added with a wry smile, "sometimes the best experiences are the ones you don't rush." My words were meant to be reassuring, but even I felt a growing sense of unease as the landscape grew more desolate and the darkness began to close in. As the sun began to set around 6:30 p.m., painting the sky with vibrant hues of orange, purple, and gold, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, obscuring the last vestiges of daylight. The vibrant colors of the sunset were beautiful, but they also hinted at the storm that was brewing, a storm that seemed to mirror the growing unease within me. The sky, which had been a clear and endless blue just hours before, was now a swirling mass of gray and black, a tempestuous canvas that reflected the turmoil in my heart. A thick fog started to roll in, blanketing the landscape in a veil of gray mist, limiting visibility and creating an atmosphere of increasing mystery and unease. The fog swirled and danced around the bus, making it seem as if we were driving through a dream or perhaps a nightmare. It clung to the windows, obscuring the already fading light and turning the world outside into a blurred and indistinct landscape. Some of the passengers, sensing the change in the weather and the growing darkness, pulled out blankets from their bags, wrapping themselves in their warmth and seeking comfort in the familiar texture of the fabric. The temperature inside the bus began to drop, and a chill settled over us, a cold that seemed to penetrate to the bone. It was a damp, clinging cold that spoke of unseen things, a cold that had nothing to do with the outside temperature. Others, perhaps more sensitive to the subtle shift in the atmosphere, fell silent, their earlier chatter replaced by a hushed stillness, their eyes wide with a mixture of apprehension and a strange, morbid curiosity. It was as if the desert itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what the night would bring. An unspoken tension filled the air, a sense of foreboding that hung heavy and palpable in the dimly lit interior of the bus. I drove cautiously, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white in the dim light, my eyes straining to pierce the gloom with the help of the bus's headlights, which cut through the fog like twin beams of light in a sea of gray. The headlights illuminated the road ahead, but they also created long, distorted shadows that danced and writhed in the periphery, playing tricks on my eyes and adding to the growing sense of disorientation. The shadows seemed to have a life of their own, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that flickered at the edge of my vision. As I navigated the winding road, however, I realized with a growing sense of unease that the road didn't look familiar. The landmarks that I expected to see were absent, replaced by an unfamiliar landscape of twisted trees and strangely shaped rock formations that seemed to loom out of the fog like grotesque figures in a dream. The trees, gnarled and distinct, reached out like skeletal fingers, their branches heavy with moisture. The rock formations, eroded into bizarre and unsettling shapes, seemed to watch us pass, their silent presence adding to the growing sense of unease. I initially thought I might have taken a wrong turn, a minor navigational error in the fading light. Perhaps I had missed a sign, or perhaps the road had been altered by a recent storm. But as I continued to drive, deeper and deeper into this unfamiliar territory, I realized that this road was completely different from the one marked on my map. So isolated and so devoid of any signs of civilization that it looked as if no one had traveled it in years, perhaps even decades. The realization sent a shiver down my spine, a cold premonition that I was venturing into a place that was not meant for human eyes. It was a place that felt ancient and untouched, a place where the normal laws of nature might not apply. A knot of fear began to tighten in my stomach, a primal instinct warning me that something was wrong. I glanced back at the passengers, noticing that the front seats of the bus were empty. All the passengers had inexplicably moved to the back of the bus, and were either sleeping fitfully, their faces pale and drawn, or talking in hushed whispers, their voices barely audible above the low hum of the engine. Their faces were illuminated by the dim glow of their phones, casting eerie shadows on their faces and making them look like ghostly apparitions. They seemed huddled together, seeking comfort and reassurance in each other's presence. A cold sweat began to form on my brow, and my hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel, the metal rim slick and cold beneath my grasp. I wasn't sure if it was from the biting cold that had seeped into the bus, or from the growing sense of dread that was creeping into my heart, a feeling that I couldn't quite explain but knew was undeniably real. It was a feeling of being watched, of being surrounded by something unseen, something ancient and malevolent. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a sense of anticipation that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Then, from a distance, carried on the still, heavy air, I heard a faint, rhythmic drumming. It was a sound unlike any I had ever heard before, a deep, resonant beat that seemed to pulse with an ancient power. It was a sound that spoke of ritual and ceremony, of something primal and untamed. It was a sound that seemed to vibrate in my very bones, resonating with something deep within my soul. I was stunned, my mind reeling as I tried to make sense of this incongruous sound. At this late hour, on such a desolate and isolated road, miles away from any sign of human habitation, the sound made no sense. It was as if the very earth itself was beating, calling out from the depths of time. It was a sound that transcended the ordinary, a sound that spoke of something beyond human comprehension. I slowed the bus, my foot hovering over the brake pedal, ready to stop at a moment's notice. My heart was pounding in my chest, a frantic counterpoint to the steady rhythm of the drums. I strained to listen, my senses on high alert. Every nerve ending in my body was tingling, and my breath came in short, ragged gasps. The drumming grew louder, more insistent, as if beckoning me closer, drawing me towards its source with an irresistible force. It was a hypnotic sound, a siren's call that promised both wonder and terror. I peered through the fogged window, my eyes searching the darkness for the source of the sound. I thought I saw shadows moving in the distance, fleeting glimpses of movement that danced at the edge of my vision, their forms indistinct and unsettling. They seemed to be moving in time with the drumming, their movements fluid and hypnotic, like dancers in a trance. They swayed and twirled in the darkness, their shapes shifting and changing in the swirling mist. The drumming and the shadows seemed to be calling me, drawing me towards them with an irresistible force, a pull that I couldn't explain or understand. It was a call that resonated deep within my soul, stirring something ancient and primal within me. A longing for something I couldn't name, a fear of the unknown, and a desperate desire to understand what was happening. My hands were still on the wheel, guiding the bus along the treacherous road, but my heart was no longer under my control. It was pounding in my chest, a frantic rhythm that echoed the ancient drumming in the distance, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that I was no longer in control of my destiny. The road ahead was shrouded in mist and darkness, and I had no idea what awaited me. But I knew that I had to follow the sound, to uncover the mystery that lay at the heart of the desert. The drumming was both a warning and an invitation, and I knew that to ignore it would be to deny a truth that was unfolding before my very eyes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Big things are coming your way. Thanks for watching, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next one.